Hey everyone, today I'm in Hugo, Oklahoma, and we're going to pay our respects to a couple of cowboys that are really big in the rodeo world. I've been here before, but it's been a while, so I kind of wanted to just see what kind of little tokens have been left on the graves. And I also wanted to tell a little bit more on their history than what I did before. So this is the entrance that you'll come in the cemetery, and it's this first little right here. And you'll see Lane Frost right away, right up close. Looks like a big belt buckle, but it says a champion in the arena, October 12th, 1963 to July 30th, 1989. Lane Frost, a champion in life. And I always like looking at all the items that are left on memorial markers and everything, and so you can see some crosses and a whole bunch of pennies and nickels and dimes and quarters, but you can see hats, and I even see a little Coleman lantern keychain, which I love. But you can see bulls and bull riders and horses and horseshoes and bells and patches and all sorts of stuff, prayer beads, just a little bit of everything. And on the back side, there's just more cows and horses and different little conchos and rocks and tiny little belt buckles and spurs, even a bell right there. All sorts of mementos. But this is the world champion bull rider in the Pro Rodeo Cowboy Association in 1987, Lane Frost. And you can see right here where that's a photo of Lane right there. Lane, Oklahoma, and Quanah, Texas, 1987 bull riding champion. And then you can see him riding Red Rock right there. And down at the bottom it says Lane, I love you, Kelly. And that's his wife, married to Kelly Kyle, January 5th, 1985. And like I said, there's just a ton of mementos here. Been visited by a lot of people. You figure each person has left the coin, and you can see how many are there. So there's also this where they've left coins, and this is talking about Lane Frost on Red Rock. Livermore, California, June of 1988. I thought we would do a little bit more history on him and who Lane Frost is. Lane Frost was born on October 12, 1963. His parents lived in Utah. However, since Lane's father was in the rodeo circuit, his mother stayed where her parents were at in Colorado, and that's where Lane was born. Lane had an older sister, Robin, and a younger brother named Cody. From an early age, Lane took an interest in bull riding. His parents did not encourage him to ride bulls, but they did support his decision to do so. He rode dairy calves and steers until his bones were more fully developed. Lane's first rodeo awards were won in 1974 when he was 10 at the Little Buckaroos Rodeo in Utah. There he stayed on a Shetland pony to win first in bareback, took second in calf roping, and rode a calf in the bull riding event for third place. Not only did he enjoy the rodeo, but he also enjoyed wrestling, which helped him to learn control and balance while he was on bulls. Lane spent the first 14 years of his life in Utah until his parents decided to move to Lane, Oklahoma, where they could escape the harsh Utah winters. There he had the help of his father's friend, Freckles Brown, who lived not too far away in Soper, Oklahoma. Freckles became a lifetime mentor and friend to Lane. In 1978, at the age of 15, Lane became the bull riding champion of the Small Fry Rodeo Association. In 1980, he was the bull riding champion of the Oklahoma Youth Rodeo Association and the runner-up bull riding champion of the National High School Rodeo Association. That same year, while competing at the National High School Rodeo Association, he met two people that would know him for the rest of his life, Kelly Kyle and Tuff Hedeman. 1 year later, in 1981, Lane won the bull riding championship at the National High School Finals Rodeo Association and kept the bull riding championship of the Oklahoma Youth Rodeo Association. In 1982, he graduated from Atoka High School and retained the Oklahoma Youth Rodeo Association bull riding championship. His awards and accomplishments just kept growing. He was offered rodeo scholarships, but in 1983 he decided to pursue a full career in the Pro Rodeo Cowboys Association at age 19. That year he became runner-up Rookie of the Year and finished 16th. The top 15th went to the National Finals Rodeo. He would qualify for the finals for the first time in 1984 and every other year until his death in 1989. On January 5, 1985, he married Kelly Kyle at a Methodist church in Quanah, Texas, which was her hometown. He went on and entered the Winston Rodeo Tour and picked up a sponsor by Copenhagen Skull. The tour created so much enthusiasm that it was picked up by ESPN. In the National Finals Rodeo of that year, he placed third in the world standings, second in the National Finals Rodeo earnings, and rode 8 out of 10 bulls. Red Rock was one of the bulls that bucked him off. In 1986, he had another big year competing. When he made the finals that year, he rode 9 out of 10 bulls. The only bull that bucked him off was Red Rock. If he had ridden all 10, then he would have been the champion. Instead, the title went to Tuff Hedeman, his friend. In 1987, Lane and Kelly picked out a piece of property near Marietta, Oklahoma, which was halfway between Lane's parents in Lane, Oklahoma, and Kelly's parents in Quanah, Texas. He also became the world champion bull rider in December of 1987 at the National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas. Unfortunately, his good friend and mentor, Freckles Brown, did not get to see this. He had died in March of 1987 after a lengthy battle with cancer. In early 1988, Lane accepted Jesus Christ as his personal savior. In April, May, June, and July of 1988, he participated in the Challenge of Champions with the bull Red Rock. It was an event between Lane and Red Rock, who was the 1987 world champion bucking bull. Red Rock had retired after the 1987 finals after never having a rider stay on for a full 8 seconds in 309 attempts in his professional career. Lane was able to ride him for a scoring ride of 4 of the 7 matches. In the 1988 NFR, Lane rode 7 out of 10 bulls and finished 5th place in the world standings. He felt he had lost his focus of things in 1988 and set out to make 1989 different. He helped organize an event in Guthrie, Oklahoma that was a tribute to his friend and mentor, Freckles Brown. No one could have guessed that the next year following the death of Lane, the event was changed to honor Freckles and Lane. The number 2 that he had worn was retired and hung on the chute gate in his memory. 1989 also gave an opportunity for Lane and Kelly to be stunt doubles in a movie that was called My Heroes Have Always Been Cowboys. It was about a bull rider that comes home to Oklahoma after his career. Kelly stayed behind to work on the movie while Lane went on to compete in the Cheyenne Frontier Days Rodeo in Wyoming. On Sunday, July 30th, 1989, Lane drew the bull, taking care of business. He successfully completed his ride and dismounted. Lane was then hit by the bull, breaking his ribs and severing his main artery. He died within moments. His funeral was estimated to have 3,500 people that attended. 1,200 filled the pews and aisles of the First Baptist Church in Atoka. The rest of the people stood outside in the rain and listened to the service over loudspeakers. He was laid to rest in the Mount Olivet Cemetery in Hugo, Oklahoma, near his good friend and mentor, Freckles Brown. Lane's friends, Tuff Hedeman, Jim Sharp, Cody Lambert, Clint Bronger, Wes Ward, and Guy Sarton served as the pallbearers. Now, one of Lane's mentors and idols is right back behind him, and it's Freckles Brown, born January 18th, 1921, and passed away March 20th, 1987. It says he was a legend in his own time. You can see his wife here, Edith Brown, December 17th, 1915 to January 7th, 2000. But you can also see where it says Rodeo Cowboys Association 1962, Freckles Brown, world's champion bull rider. And also on this other side, you can see in 1967 at the National Finals Rodeo in Oklahoma City, he rode the bull Tornado. So that's a depiction of Freckles Brown on Tornado. And you can see a photo right here of Freckles' writing right there. Pretty interesting. But it says, "My friend and your friend, Freckles Brown. He was a small man but had a large hand. He never walked but always ran. Whenever traveling down the road, he always carried the biggest load." And then it says, "Sergeant Warren Brown, U.S. Army, World War II, horse-drawn artillery teamster, horseshoer, Chinese parachutist, served in the Chinese theater, a member of the Office of Strategic Services under Major General William J. Donovan." And over here, this says, "Freckles Brown, to my wife Edith, I love you the best of all the crew." But you can see here, there's quite a few coins that have been left here. And even on top, right up here, you can see those little coins. Not quite as many as Lane. I think part of that is just because of the movie 8 Seconds. But he's certainly a legend in his own right within the rodeo world. Freckles' real name was Warren Brown, and he was born on January 18, 1921 in Wheatland, Wyoming. He was the youngest of 10 brothers and sisters. He got the name Freckles from a dairyman he worked for in Tucson, Arizona when he was 14 years old. In 1937, at the age of 16, he entered his first rodeo in Willcox, Arizona. His career lasted for 37 years until the age of 53 at his last rodeo in Tulsa, Oklahoma. His first bull riding trophy came in 1941. He rode 50 miles on his horse from a ranch where he worked to Cody, Wyoming. After he won, he rode the 50 miles back home. Throughout his rodeo career, he competed in bull riding, saddle bronc, bareback, team roping, bulldogging, and the wild horse race. His wife Edith was by his side through it all. He was stationed at Fort Sill, Oklahoma during World War II and then in Europe where he continued to ride in rodeos. During World War II, Freckles was stationed in China, serving in the Office of the Strategic Services, which is now known as the CIA. He helped hold the first rodeo ever held in China using U.S. Army mules. He took first in saddle mule riding and bareback mule riding. When he returned home, he came to Oklahoma to raise cattle and hay. In 1962, Freckles won the title World Championship Bull Rider at the National Finals Rodeo, sitting on the sidelines. In the previous October, he had been badly injured in a rodeo in Portland, Oregon. He landed on the back of his head where he was temporarily paralyzed. He had an operation and was in traction for over 2 months. However, he had won enough during that year to capture the championship. The next time he rode again was in July of 1963. In 1967 at the National Finals Rodeo in Oklahoma City, Freckles wasn't even in the running for the championship, but he is probably better remembered for what he did rather than who actually won the championship that year. He rode an unrideable bull named Tornado. This bull was owned by Jim Shoulders and was the first bull Freckles drew on the opening night of the finals, December 1st, 1967. 9,000 spectators watched a 47-year-old Freckles and Tornado battle it out in the arena. Many bull riders had tried to ride Tornado and had failed. Some even refused to try, but Freckles did the unthinkable. Freckles had been battling prostate cancer for years. It had been in remission but returned in early 1987 after falling from his tractor. Sadly, Freckles died on Friday, March 20th, 1987 at his ranch in Oklahoma. About 1,000 people attended his funeral, including Jim Shoulders, Lane Frost, and rodeo announcer Clem McSpadden. So Lane Frost and Freckles Brown are not the only cowboys in the cemetery. There is this other marker back here that says Robinson. There's 3 names here, but only one has been laid to rest. We have Verna Kay on the right, July 7th, 1945, which is the mother, and then Max Bryan, or Turk Robinson, on the left, December 8th, 1931, and that's when his birth date was. He has not been laid to rest, but they did lay their son to rest here just shy of his birthday. Roman Todd, born October 22nd, 1970 to October 21st, 1991. And there is a photo on the front here of him. Pretty interesting. on the back side, it's Turk Robinson that's the cowboy. So one day this will be his final resting place. But on the back it says, "This is to certify that Turk Robinson is a life member of the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association." And it says the Marlboro Man down at the bottom. And you can see this photo here. It's pretty neat. He's doing a little bit of bulldogging, or steer wrestling as they call it. And then over here you can see that it says, "Verna, a dear wife and wonderful mother. Love always, Turk." So here in the middle they have a little inscription here that the parents have written. "Todd, our wonderful son, was so kind and good, with so many friends, for he was a true friend to all he touched and influenced many lives. He gave us and everyone who knew him love, joy, and happiness to last a lifetime. Even though he's unseen, unheard, he's always near. So loved, so missed, and so very dear. The precious memories of our lifetime together will never fade, and God will someday mend the broken chain when one by one we will meet again. Our love forever, Mom and Dad." Down here you can see that there is a little thank you from Todd to his mom and dad. It says, "Thanks for everything, and I love you both." Todd Robinson was a senior at the University of Oklahoma. He was in his fraternity room studying for an exam when his heart just stopped on October 22nd, 1991, which was one day before his 21st birthday. The monument you see here was erected for him and also his parents, which will someday be laid to rest beside him. His father was a rodeo man in the Professional Rodeo Cowboy Association, and his name was Turk Robinson. He is one of the names listed on the monument beside his son. He is a Choctaw chief descendant. He could do all of the rodeo events, but bulldogging, or steer wrestling as it was called, was his bread and butter, and he won most of his money in that event. While Turk was roping one day, he had been discovered by a photographer, which led to a part-time gig as the Marlboro Man. He wasn't the first Marlboro Man, but he did carry on the tradition. He was a real cowboy though, and that's what they liked about him, especially since he was 6 foot 6 inches tall. One interesting fact though is that he never smoked. He couldn't even stand the smell of the smoke. He only put the cigarette in his mouth for the photo shoots. He never even wanted to pick up the habit of smoking because he thought it was a bad habit and he never wanted to do it, and he thought it would be bad for his health. The job was just another way to provide for his family in addition to winning rodeos and raising cattle. After he quit being the Marlboro Man, there have been 4 others that were the Marlboro Man, and they have actually died from smoking. He often gets associated as being one of those since he has a marker in Hugo, but it is simply not true. The memorial is really there because of his son. So there is one last cowboy to see in this cemetery, and if for reference, if you're looking for it, that is the Showman's Rest section right over there, the one with all the circus entertainers and trainers and stuff like that. Go just right over here and you'll find him. But this says Daddy, Todd Watley, December 18th, 1920 to June 17th, 1966. And you can see a great photo of him riding a bull right there. Pretty neat. Trying to stay out of the sun here because I know there's a glare. But down at the bottom it says RCA World Championship Honors, All Around Cowboy 1947, Steer Wrestling 1947, and Bull Riding 1953. And you can see where a few people have visited him. There's some dimes, nickels, and pennies down at the bottom. Don't know if there's anything over here. Nope, nothing over here besides Watley. So pretty interesting find in the cemetery. Quite a few cowboys. Todd Watley was a rodeo cowboy who had won bull riding titles in Houston and Cheyenne at the age of 17. These were the biggest rodeos around in 1945. In 1947, he won the all-around title, which was the first one of its kind in the Rodeo Cowboys Association, which would later be renamed to Pro Rodeo Cowboys Association. That same year, he was also the world champion steer wrestler. In 1953, he became the world champion bull rider. Following a career-ending hip injury, he took to ranching and remained active in the rodeo world. He was on the board of directors for the PRCA, and he was inducted into the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum in 1955. In 1966, he participated in a rodeo in Hugo, Oklahoma, and went to a dance following the event. Watley was apparently sitting in the car with Opal Kaiser when her inebriated husband tried to open the car, but she had it locked against him. Ed Kaiser then went to his own car, got a gun, and returned to Watley's car. Kaiser then fired shots into the vehicle, killing Watley and wounding Mrs. Kaiser. She later stated that the shooting was the third time that her husband tried to kill her. Edward R. Kaiser was convicted of first-degree manslaughter and was sentenced to serve 5 years at the state penitentiary for Watley's death. So this is another one that I found in the cemetery, and I'm not familiar with who this guy is, but it's Billy Joe Grant, May 9th, 1929 to July 9th, 2019. So it's a recent addition to the cemetery since I was last here, but it's pretty neat. It has him on a horse up there, and it has the stairway to heaven up there. And then you can also see some longhorn cattle, and then him fixing to entertain right there, and him twirling a lasso. But it says he was a rancher, rodeo enthusiast, singer, songwriter, storyteller, writer, historian, and tourism promoter. And it says owner and promoter of the first bluegrass festival west of the Mississippi from 1969 to 2004, and the International Bluegrass Music Association Distinguished Achievement Award, International Bluegrass Hall of Fame and Museum, pioneer of bluegrass music, Oklahoma Legislature, Oklahoma Arts Council, America's Old Time Country Music Hall of Fame, Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame, and recognized as an ambassador of bluegrass music by 5 Oklahoma governors. So that is a pretty interesting find right here, and nice marker, really nice marker. 1 penny left there, and on the back side is his wife, who has not passed away yet. I guess that's his wife. October 11th, 1942, Barbara Milner Grant. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with the wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. Isaiah 40:31. It's pretty interesting. I guess she was a barrel racer, though, at one point in time, and there's a photo of her right there. It's quite a marker, though. Definitely one that I have not seen in here before. Billy Joe Grant was a Choctaw tribal member and grew up on a ranch in Hugo, Oklahoma. He was inspired by Bill Monroe, and he took up the mandolin. He also worked at the Fort Worth stockyards for a while. He is best known for his 40-year musical career with the Leah Bell. They recorded 32 albums, performed in 34 states and 7 countries. He is credited with promoting the first bluegrass festival west of the Mississippi. It began in Hugo, Oklahoma in 1969, but it had its roots in a gathering 2 years earlier. His honors include the International Bluegrass Music Association's Distinguished Achievement Award in 2006. He was a pioneer of bluegrass music. He was inducted into the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame in 2017. Grant passed away following a fall that fractured his leg and led to a brief hospitalization. So I am now in the back part of the cemetery in this open space, and I always thought this was just unused portions of the cemetery. And of course, right over there is a newer Hispanic section, so I just thought this was an area to expand. But in this far back corner, that white monument stood out. Sometimes you just have to be in the cemetery at the right time for these monuments to have the sun hit them and you notice them. I've been in this cemetery several times and I've never noticed that. And as I was walking over, I noticed this one right here. And it's interesting that it's so far back here. I don't know if she has another section or not, but this says Mrs. Maudie Weatherford, I think, maybe, or Weathereed, August 30th, 1929. So I'm not exactly sure why she is all the way back here by herself, but I thought we would go take a look at these as well. It's very odd that these are separated within the cemetery, and maybe that's just one that looks like a marker and a foot marker there. This is in the far back corner of this whole cemetery, and that marker is broken. Pretty interesting. There's just a hayfield there is what that is, but this is completely broken and smashed. It's not even legible at all because it's so bad. But died March 21st, 1907, and maybe the last name is Willard. Could be Millard. I don't know. Ends in L-L-A-R-D. I can't see the rest of the marker there. Just completely busted. And that would have been on top of there, and then someone's placed that bigger piece that just looks like a regular piece from the bottom, a base from another one, because this is what's broken off and is down there. Far back corner of the cemetery, and you can see that is where my car is at, and the rest of the cemetery completely separated. So I don't know if that means that there are other ones back up in these woods or something. Well, this truly is a unique cemetery with a lot of history in it, as far as the circus, as far as the Cowboys, but there's also a lot of history in here that has to do with veterans. And so every time I'm in this cemetery, I seem to notice something different, someone else kind of sort of speaking to me to come over and take a look at the marker and read it a little bit and wonder who they were and what their life story was. Now you'll find several of them in here that do a great job telling who they are, and then others you just kind of have to wonder. But there's a lot of 45th Infantry in here, and as you walk the cemetery, not just in the Showman's Rest, but in other places of the cemetery, you'll see circus performers or people that worked with the circus. So I just wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode, and I hope you enjoyed it. Appreciate you all watching, and we'll see you guys next time.